1 second. Okay, Brother Jihad, I believe okay, yes, sir. We got the notification. We are live now, sir.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule to spend some time with myself and a great guest today, Brother Jihad Amos Muihammad from Tampa, Florida. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Tampa,
yes, sir.
Florida.
Yes, sir, holding it down. I want to thank you very much, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule. I met you when I was in Tampa and saw the great work that you did there. And I know that some of the people from Tampa came to Atlanta and spoke very highly of you as well. So everybody who's ever come into contact with you has had positive things to say about you and your work that has interacted with me. So, Brother Jihad, if you can give us some background information on you, when did you accept the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by the Most Honorable Farrakhan?
Yes, sir. First, let me seek refuge with the assistance of Allah from the rejected Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I always like to give a declaration of what I believe in, my foundation, which is the belief in the oneness of one God, Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Father Muhammad. And I believe in coming to know that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ, and the Most Honorable Minister Farrakhan is his divine spiritual son. To answer your question, in 1999 is when I became a registered member in the Nation of Islam, but I accepted Islam in 1992.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And why did you accept the teaching, sir, and become a registered member in 1999?
Well, in 1999, I had a spooky experience in 1999. What they would consider a spooky experience. In 1999, I was placed in solitary confinement in Florida State Prison, wherein I received 27 years. I did 9.5 years of those 27 years after filing the habeas corpus 3.850, having that sentence overturned, ended up with 10 years with 3 years mandatory. But I was so wild in the penitentiary, in the Florida State Penitentiary, that I ended up doing practically the whole 10 years. And while incarcerated at my last portion of that time, I did get out. But they gave me so much conditional release. Conditions of community service, house arrest, and probation. I had to return to finish my sentence up. And while on my second trip to prison, no new charges, I got into an altercation with a major, a lieutenant, and a sergeant, and wherein they locked the compound down, indicating that I was inciting a riot. So I did fight them, and I was placed in solitary confinement at Madison Correctional Institution. And while in solitary confinement, that's when I had my experience with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad after reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I never knew the man, I never saw a video of him, but I had a vision of him in that dark cell. That's what they call it, the dark cell. You can barely see your hand in this cell. It's a steel door with just a little dim glass and a food slot. And after that experience, that's when I came into the knowledge of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad by a brother named Israel Witcher, who was in the Nation of Islam and who had also submitted his letter and gave me the letter to the Savior to copy and to send. And I sent that letter off in I sent it off in 98, I believe, and I recited in 99 before student minister James Muhammad.
Okay, excellent. Yes, sir. Now, sir, when you were in solitary confinement, could you explain to us some of the process of what it's like to be locked down in a prison? You were in prison in Florida?
Yeah, I was in prison in Florida. Yes, sir. I went to prison for one armed robbery conviction. Actually, I was the fall guy. I took the rap, and and all praise is due to Allah. I came out with a golden opportunity, and I learned how to read at the age 16 when I went to prison. I didn't know how to read nor write. It was a brother from Jacksonville, Florida, an older brother who took me under his wing and taught me how to read and write. And from that point, I was trying to read everything that I could come in contact with. And I used that same format to learn how to read and write Arabic. And, but you just asked me a question. I think I didn't answer it.
Oh, no, yes, sir. And I was saying, what was it like in those circumstances of being in prison in Florida? Is it like television? Is it worse than television? Could you give us some insight on what it was like?
Well, I'll say this, Brother Joshua. When I went in, it was the gladiator school. I mean, you had to know how to handle yourself. And all praise be to Allah. I come up from a rough part of Tampa, Florida, College Hill Projects. And I was what you would consider a stick-up kid. I was a jack boy in my neighborhood, and I knew how to throw them from the shoulders pretty well. And so when I went in, all was on my mind was fighting. I accumulated at least probably 62, 63 DRs, disciplinary reports, and all of them consist of fighting and riots and so forth. And so when I went in, I didn't have God on my mind at all. And when you're in a place like that, you learn how to adapt to certain spirits. So I can basically be around you for a short period of time and know what type of individual you is. I could, and what I learned going into prison, some people go in as petty hustlers, and later they are placed in cells or dormitories with murderers. So they go in as a petty thief and come out as a robber, a murderer, bank robber. So I guess that's why they call them inmates. They got them in there mating with other mentalities, criminal mindsets. So it was pretty rough. If you don't know how to handle yourself, it's pretty rough. Just imagine four men coming to you with knives and telling you either gonna bleed on my knife or either get down and lay down, because they want something from you. And if you don't know how to handle yourself, you become a guppy among sharks. And that's how it was. And that's how it slightly is. But now it's a new thing in the Florida prison that I've never seen before. And this let me know there's a hidden hand behind it all, wherein you have now gang activities. You never had that when I was in prison. For those 10 years, I never seen a Blood or a Crip or a Vice Lord or a GD at the height that it is now. Now they're flourishing through the Florida state prison system.
Yes, sir. Now, how were the Muslims treated, and how, as far as in prison, were they like FOI? Were there Sunni Shiites? How was that?
Yes, sir. It was definitely a division, and I thank Almighty God, Allah, the way He brought me to Islam, even though I wasn't in the nation of Islam when I took my Shahada. But those who Allah allowed me to be around was in the nation, but they never said they was in the nation because they was outnumbered. So I was trained and taught by those in the nation of Islam who was acting like they were Sunnis. I later learned that they was in the nation because of their military bearing, and that's where I got it from. People didn't understand how I could be Sunni, but I got the brother. When I became imam, I was the youngest imam in a Florida state prison, one of the youngest imams. And they used to have what they called a child nutrition line. So all of those under 21 would go to chow before the whole compound. And when I became imam at this particular prison, Calhoun and Holmes Correctional, I had all praises due to Allah. By His permission, I was able to form a group of brothers, Latinos, blacks, whites, and we used to actually march. And I knew nothing about drilling, and you the drill man. I knew nothing about drilling. And we used to actually march to the chaplain's office. And when a woman come down on our left side, we'll say, right face, you know. And so brothers would turn their head to the right, looking away from the woman, while the Sharif was on the left side. And if she come on the left, the Sharif is on the right side, giving the command. I didn't know nothing about drilling. I thought that was part of Islam. But this came about by the brothers from the Nation of Islam having that impact on me. And I never knew they was in the nation until I became a Muslim in the Nation of Islam.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. What advice do you give to young men to try to stay out of prison?
Well, the advice I would give to the young men is to be very mindful of your company, and take a look at your company. Take a look at those who you hanging with or banging with. And when you look at them, ask yourself this question: which one of these cats gonna bond me out if I was to go to jail? Which one of these cats gonna get me a lawyer if I was to go commit this crime? Then look at your homies and say, and look at your girl. Look at your girl. I mean, like, really look at your girl and say, if I go down here and commit this robbery, sell this drug, or do any kind of criminal act, am I willing to trade my beautiful woman to be lying in a cell with another man who covering the bunk, the bottom bunk or the top bunk, telling me I have to face the wall while he take a leak or while he defecate? See, would you want to be in the shower with 20 men or 10 men in the shower, butt bunk naked, or would you like to be in the shower with your wife? Or let's say your girlfriend? Keep it real, you know? So that's what they have to look at, you know? Who's gonna ride with you for the long run? And that's the problem. A lot of our young brothers and sisters, you know, they turn to gang activities because there's no group activity in the homes, you know? And sometimes, even though we're far away from our children as fathers or mothers, you know, communication is key. Communication is key. So I'll advise the young brother or sister to find a way to communicate with mom or dad, no matter what their condition is. Because in order for a lemon fruit to know why it's bitter, it got to go to a lemon tree that produced it.
Yes, sir. Okay, excellent. You mentioned that you had some issues with the officers, the COs, as far as riots. Once you became a Muslim, or once you accepted Islam, did you have a better relationship with the COs and the correctional officers and things of that nature?
Yes, sir, but I was a warrior. I was a warrior. I was a revolutionary in the sense that we when I say we, a group of brothers in Florida State Prison, Brother Old Man Jack and Brother Abdul Majid, many of us, Mario Maro, Brother Hakeem, Aribuddin, you know, we put forth the effort to get Qurans on the compound. We suffered for that. We put forth effort to get prayer rugs on the compound. We suffered for that. We put forth the effort that the brothers in Islam would be fed, a substitute for the pork. We suffered for that, you know. I mean, like when I say suffered, we was maced, we was placed in script cells, butt naked, you know. Some of us, I remember one of my friends, good brother of mine, he was murdered. And he actually was given the name Mandingo Warrior from the Major. He gave him the name because this brother was so, man, I mean, like we talking about Shabazz going to make a man to adapt to nature. That brother adapted, and they maced him, and he took every kind of mace they put on him, except that spider mace that stick to your skin. When you rub it, it's like you're rubbing your skin off. And you can mace one cell, and it'll travel through the vents, and everybody will be ill affected by that same mace. So, yes, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. And you said that spider mace, that it's, I didn't know there was different types of mace.
Yeah, there's different types of mace. Yeah, you got the one that irritates the skin. I mean, you rub it, it's like you're rubbing your skin off. Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. And I want to thank everyone for watching this episode of Off the Record with Brother Jihad Amos Muihammad. Brother Jihad, I want to first I got to announce my sponsors. I want to thank my sister Miriam for ABC I Love Me for sponsoring this podcast. Get her book on Amazon. I wrote my second book, Cleopatra. It is on Amazon as well. You can just search that as a children's book. I want to thank Politically Oppressed for sponsoring this podcast as well, with Street Premiere, and Sister Shanasia Muhammad with keeping it real. Her sponsorship as well. Yes, ma'am, Sister Tracy, I am going to ask him that. Sister Tracy wants to know, Brother Jihad, about your work with BYC, Building Your Community. Could you please explain to the people you're working in the community with that?
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. Well, like any movement, not any movement. I'm trying to get plug my phone in so I'm down.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Like any movement, we have a pledge. And our pledge with the BYC, we pledge, first of all, I'm a fruit. I'm a fruit of Islam. I'm a fruit off of the tree of the Islam that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad represents to us. I'm a student of the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm a registered member in the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I wanted to make that perfectly clear. The BYC is a pivot towards the Nation of Islam, but it's not a pivot, it's not a compulsed pivot. I don't compulse the brothers or sisters to believe in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I think in order for me to properly introduce Islam to them as taught by the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is to try to live it to the best of my ability. And if they see it, then they will ask me questions, as they usually do, as to why I do certain things that I do. And then I'll tell them, I have a teacher, I have a leader, I have a guide, and you should check him out for yourself. And then all praise is due to Allah, they check him out. And on the basis of our relationship, some of the brothers and sisters that I work with in BYC is an acronym that stands for Building Your Community. And the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan acknowledged our work in 2010. Actually, me and you, Brother Joshua, was on the minister's door at Flag in Clearwater, Florida. You was on one end and I was on his door when he came up the elevator. And I watch you and I observe you and I learned your military bearing. And I watch you now, and you see how hard I was trying to get you here so that you can help me with the brothers in BYC so that they can see the training. So we pledge in BYC that we will help build our community, a community that many of us had hands in destroying. We pledge to appreciate our community. No matter what condition it's in, we understand that the majority of us had hands in destroying a community that we didn't design, but that doesn't negate the fact that we shouldn't strive to try to clean it up. We will protect the women, the youth, and the elderly in our community. We pledge not to destroy our community. As I mentioned earlier, I was a jack boy, I was a robber. I sold drugs. I bust my guns and they bust their guns. I was shot 4 times in my head, back, and my legs. I nearly died. They almost gave up on me. My mother snatched the sheets off me and she didn't give up on me. I heard them talking, but I couldn't move. I was that swole, So I was shot with a moss bird.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm saying, Brother Jihad, we got to clear. You just dropped a lot on us, brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So could you go back to when you were shot 4 times and tell us the circumstance and what happened and your mother? Can you just break that down for us a little bit, please, sir?
Well, I'll give certain things. There's no limitations.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, I understand.
So I'll say it like this: I was in a shootout. In the process of that shootout, the first time I got shot, I was 13 years old, 14, and I was ambushed. And they actually was coming after one of my older brothers. And I so happened to be standing where the robbers at that time, they say hurt people hurt people. After I got robbed, I became a robber. And so they circled the block and they ambushed us from the bushes in Roberts Park Projects, another project that I was in, that my brother was staying in. And right now today, this was in '87. Right now today, the same bullet holes is still in that wall from 1987 to this day. And but I was ambushed. They placed a gun to my cousin's head, to my head, and another individual, and they had us on the ground. Something just wouldn't let me lay down. And while I was hesitating about laying down, I heard one of the robbers' voice, very distinct, and he knew I knew who he was. And he's a killer. He's a straight up killer. Those who know, you know. So, but the OG's original gangsters that's in that project, they seen what was going down. And so imagine someone standing over you and you lying between their legs while they shooting back they shooting at one another, but they standing over you to keep you from moving. And so I bucked the jack. And I jumped in these bushes. And so many holes was in that wall, only one bullet hit me that night. It went through the back of my leg and came out my knee. And so I managed to make it to my aunt's house, who lived in the projects, but on the other side. So I made it to her house, and those same individuals who committed this act on a 14-year-old and so forth, but I was a wild 14-year-old. Enough said on that. So I was shot again. And we'll skip that one. And I was hit again in 89. I was shot twice on the one I skipped. And the recent one, the last one, I was shot with a Mossberg pump shotgun. That was in the midst of a robbery, one-armed robbery conviction that landed me to 27 years with 3 years mandatory in the Florida State Prison. And the judge told me, since I wouldn't snitch, he was going to make me out of an example. He said, you may come back. He said, but by the time you get back, you know, you've been basically did your time, you know. And he was right. He was absolutely right. So I got 10 years out of that 27 years. And so I was shot with a pump shotgun. It hit me from my back to my head. All praise is due to Allah. If you see my back and my head, you couldn't tell. But you know, when you see the x-ray, I don't put it on the books before. It looked like stars. I still have the bullets in me. I have over 60-something bullets in me. And so when they tested my pulse and everything, they gave up on me. My body was that swole. And they told my mom they didn't think I was going to make it. They actually
I can hear you.
Okay. Somebody trying to call in, so I don't know if that messed up the call or not.
Yes, sir. It's all good. We right here.
Okay. Yeah. So my mom snatched the sheet off, you know, and she didn't give up on me. All praise is due to Allah. May Allah bless her for the good she did when she was among us. And she didn't give up on me. And I never hit the streets from that day because it was in the process of a robbery and turned into a shootout. And the individual who shot me, he too got shot in the face. And so when I got out of prison, he was the first person I went to when I got out of prison during all that time after becoming a Muslim. I went to him, not with hostility, you know, not with hostility in my heart. He was cleaning his rims and I was standing over him. And I asked him, do we know who I am? He said, no. He said, are you Jeremiah? I said, not Jeremy. I said, no, sir. And he looked, I said, Amos. And he raised up slowly and I grabbed his hand, pulled him to me. And I said, I thank you, man. I thank you. I said, because if I didn't go to prison, I probably would have been dead. If your shot didn't kill me, I thank you. I said, because all my prison life, I was thinking about getting back out and retaliating against you and your family. But Allah got a hold of me. And I was able to, and me and him, like good friends to this day.
That's a beautiful story. Wow, brother. Yes, sir. Walaikum salam, Mimi. Walaikum salam, Naima. Walaikum salam, Sister Desiree. And walaikum salam, Sister Deshawn, holding it down. Sister Deshawn, I want to inbox you because I want you to tell your story as well. Okay, yes, sir, brother. Jihad, so you're saying you're still good friends with the brother, even though that you shot him in the face and he shot you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He actually took me in his house. That's when I kind of got spooked. I said, oh, he's trying to set me up again. So I said, but I had no fear, man. I said, all right, okay. Whatever you about to do, Allah, okay. I made the step, Allah, for atonement and reconciliation. You know, the man was protecting his good, because if we had got in there that night, we probably would have killed that dude. And I know that probably would have happened, you know, but all praise is due to Allah. I can't thank Allah enough, Brother Joshua. I can't thank him enough for that turnaround. And he took me in his house and he showed me the bullet holes in his walls. And I showed him the bullet holes in my back. You know, he showed me one, you know, and I was just saying, you know, we hugged, man. And we many years went by and we was able, first time seeing each other face to face after facing off in court, we was able to embrace him and his wife and his children, you know, heard many stories about me. His wife was actually involved that night. When she came home, I actually had to lay her down, you know, in order to get to him, you know. So, you know, it wasn't meant for her, but she came at the time. You know, he was a big drug dealer in the hood. And so we had to have him. And if she hadn't came, we would have got in, and we would have got him coming out the shower. But all praise is due to Allah. I mean, this all public record and transcript, you know. Yes, sir. So, yes, sir.
Okay, excellent, brother. And I'm happy that worked out, and I'm glad that you all were able to atone. That's a powerful story. When we were in Tampa and I first met you and I saw the Most Honorable Minister Spark, not only did you hold post, but then you were brought on stage and you got to, you know, be brought before the world for your work in the community of Tampa, Florida. Yes. What did the Most Honorable Minister Farrakhan tell you?
Well, the Most Honorable Minister Farrakhan, all praise is due to Allah for him and for his spirit and for his instruction and advice. Actually, I have to say this part before I mention that, because it goes together. Brother, you just had Brother Rasul Hakeem Muhammad on your called Beautiful Show. And he dropped some things on us that I didn't know in regards to Master Father Muhammad's lineage and family. Yes, woo! But it was Brother Rasul. When he came down, he asked me to go get some brothers from the community. Actually, to be more specific, gang members, those who the movers and shakers in the hood. He didn't know that I was already in the process of doing that work. BYC was an acronym that stood for Backyard Clique, because everything we did, we brought it back to the backyard of my mother's home. And so we sold drugs together. We bust our guns together. We did everything together. It was family oriented. BYC is just not as big, but it's just as deep as Bloods and Crips. And so that's something that I started after my brother was murdered in '87, right before I got shot the first time. My brother was murdered in College Hill Projects, brutally murdered. And he was someone I looked up to. And so at that point, I said, you know what? Not on my watch again. So as a young man, we put together BYC Backyard Clique. Since everything go down in Mom's backyard, these, you know, brother, you covered. So we're going to cover for our brothers. Anybody hurt one of us, we hurt two of them. And so that's how it was. And so, long truth short, we had backyard clique. So when Brother Rasul came down and asked me to go out into the community, Brother Rasul was, to his surprise, I brought at least 15 brothers to him. That following, probably 2 or 3 days later, I brought about 15 brothers to him. Never said anything about the backyard clique or nothing. I just brought the brothers to him. And they impacted him to a point wherein these was brothers who was actually rivals with one another. But they had atoned and reconciled their differences. And so happened the minister was coming to give a lecture on atonement and reconciliation in Tampa, Florida. And building your community did not exist. And so a brother named Anwar Arif, you probably know him because he know you and your family. He's passed away now. Brother Anwar Arif gave me a newspaper, the Final Call newspaper, 2009 lecture that the minister gave in Memphis, Tennessee. And on the heading of that newspaper read, build our community. And I said, that's it. I'm changing the acronym from backyard clique to build your community. So that acronym, build your community, come out of the spirit of the Million Man March, a Holy Day of Atonement, come out of the spirit of the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so I took it to the squad and they did it. They loved it. And so since the minister was coming down, we didn't want to go to the minister with backyard clique. We went to the minister with building your community. And as me and Brother Rasul cross-examine our family lineage, Brother Rasul's father and my grandfather and his grandfather are actually cousins. And by way of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's grandfather, his father's father. So my grandfather's father. And so that's confirmed with Imam Sultan and Brother Rasul. And so I am actually related through my father, who was actually my grandfather, who was actually from Sandersville, Georgia. Yes, sir.
Excellent. And thank you all for watching, and thank you all for your comments. Yes, sir. Now, you've raised sons and daughters. What would your advice be for future fathers as far as raising sons versus daughters?
Well, I'll tell you this. Don't lose faith and don't lose yourself just because you think you're on the right path, and you might be, and your child choose another path. You have to understand that Allah say we suffer from what our own hands wrought. And sometimes we can get in the way of a chastisement that is customized for the child. And it can hit you. Sometimes you got to let them get burned. I know many may say, oh, no. Well, let's go back to Moses' time. Moses walked with the wise man, but the wise man had a mission. Moses wanted to accompany the wise man, but the wise man told Moses, you don't have the patience to walk with me. And at a certain point, the wise man took the head of a young boy. Moses didn't understand why, but this young boy was going to be a burden to his family, to his parents. See? So every baby is not meant to be saved. And many may look at that, but God don't think like us. God knows what's in the heart, even in a child, even when that child is in the seed, as a seed. Even before you're born, God knows what you're going to become. Many may say, well, why didn't he stop Adolf Hitler? Because he served the purpose. He was to bring out of certain people that which they didn't know existed in them. See? So my advice to my own children, in which my twin boys, they chose to go down the path that I went down. See? Now, if I had wrapped myself up emotionally, constantly trying to beat me up out of them, I'll say that again. trying to beat me up out of them, I would have been there forever. Because if you or me don't sit down and explain to them or share with them your experience. See, many of us become so bougie until we don't talk about us being on drugs before. We don't talk about us being robbers and whores and prostitutes and so forth. We don't talk about that. That's taboo. So we want our children to look at us for who we have become, but not who we was. That's okay. But Allah says in the Holy Quran, Allah says, remember when you didn't know. Remember when you didn't know. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said he was in the mud, and the only thing that you can see was his eyes. He said he was a drunkard. The minister just said when he sent our dear brother Rahman to Atlanta, his concern was he was cutting the food, right? And the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, according to the minister, said that the messenger said to him, I too cut the food down. So, but the minister, but the exalted Christ remembered. And that's why the minister say, rise above your emotions into the thinking of God. See, our children going to choose a path that they want to choose because they struggling between what the world want them to do, what their parents want them to do, and what they want to do on their own.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Excellent and powerful. And thank you. And thank you, Sister Tracy Muhammad. And thank you, Sister Desiree says, all praises due to Allah. And Sister Naima says, all praises due to Allah. Thank you very much for watching and everyone who's tuned in. Brother Jihad, how did you not become a statistic and where you went to prison, but how were you able to escape that? And how do you suggest other people escape being statistics of the community?
I got tired. I wanted to be. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said in 1973, during the Savior's Day lecture, he said, I thank that father of his, talking about Master Father Muhammad's father. He said, and that father of his, we thank him. He said, for sending one, because we want to be saved. See, we have to want to be saved. The most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, he said, if all of the white people was to die tonight, he said, the black people will have a problem the day after. He said, all of my Chicano and Native American brothers, if the white man was to die tomorrow, you will have a problem the day after. He said, it's not the white man, it is actually yourself. He said, but somebody have to show you your face. So we have to face up to our face. And that's the problem. That's the problem I had. Nobody had showed me my face, Brother Joshua. It was when a brother showed me my face. It was a brother from Kuwait, Arabia, brother named Wa'el El-Koni. He showed me my face. I didn't want to be a Muslim. I first went to a Juma in prison, and it scared the hell out of me. When I heard they're done, I thought they was doing some kind of magic on me. And so I ran, brother. And so I didn't go back to a service. But then this, one of my homeboys came on a compound named Sunshine, Walter Pickens. He wanted to be a Muslim. And I walked with him to go find this email. And so happened this Arab came up out of the dormitory. And he said, who wanted to know about Islam? And one of my other homies came up. And so Sunshine left me standing there talking to this Arab. And he left and went where my homeboy was and told the Arab to talk to me. His name Wa'el El-Koni. He was from Kuwait, Arabia. He had a birthmark over his left eye. And he left me there talking to this brother. And I was spellbound. He told me to go to the dormitory, told me to take a full ghusl. So I went, took a shower. I didn't know what for. I thought it was a way to get up out of prison. So I didn't know what it was. So I went and took a shower, and he told me to say a prayer. And it was hard for me to get on my knees and pray, especially in prison. But I put a newspaper on my bunk, like I was reading the paper, and I was on one knee. But I was praying to Jesus. I didn't know how to pray. And so I went back to him and I said, I did it. From that day in 1992, I never turned back from Islam. There's an old saying, if you want to find Muhammad, you want to find Jesus, you want to find God, go to the prison gates. That's where the inmate left him. I didn't leave him there. I brought him with me.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. That's a powerful story.
Yes,
wonderful. Sister Naima says, good teaching. Sister Deshaun, his name is Brother Jihad from Tampa, Florida. And Sister Desiree says, have you ever worked with 30-year-olds and older who had a hard time leaving the streets? If so, what was that experience like?
Absolutely. Actually, what we have done in the BYC is created a elders board, wherein the young brothers and sisters can go to our elders, because there's a gap that's been opened between the elders and the youth. You can see it in the hip hop world. They trying to implement it, re-implement it in the hip hop world. See, they trying to make the young rappers go against the older rappers. They trying to make the young R&B go against the older R&B. See, that's all that Willie Lynch thing, you know. But our elders have to see us as their children. Our elders have to see us as their nephews. We have to see our youth as our niece and nephews. We must not violate them in no way. See? So, yes, to answer your question, sister, yes. When we go out into the community, we go out into the community late night hours. That's where the wolves come out. That's when the wolves come out. Just recently, over a year ago, 4 of our soldiers of the BYC went out into the community, the same community that I got shot in. I told you I was ambushed, Brother Joshua. And these brothers was out doing the work in the community. And they were standing between the gang and the gun, inviting these brothers, older brothers and younger brothers, to what we call Brother You Covered Dinner. So we have this Brother You Covered Dinner every Saturday, every 2 weeks. And now we do it every Saturday. And the brothers was caught up in a drive-by shooting that injured 3 of our brothers. Brother Anthony Lewis, he was shot the worst because the van rolled up on them and hit him first. Was they targeted? I don't know. Anytime you speak against drugs, you got a problem with the drug dealer. Anytime you speak against prostitution, you're gonna have a problem with pimps. Anytime you speak against poor education, poor living, poor environment, you're going to have a problem with the government. So this is why they got a problem with the minister. See? So if the minister is in trouble and you're not in trouble, I got to watch you, because you should be going through the same thing your leader going through.
Yes,
see?
Sir.
So these young brothers were shot up. One brother died at least 3 times on the table, and he only took 1 shot. See? But the point I'm making is that these things going to happen when you follow the instructions of your leader, teacher, and guide. And these brothers not registered members in the Nation of Islam. Some of these brothers are 30. Some of these brothers are 40. Some of these brothers are elder, but the oldest brother we got in the BYC, I believe he's now pushing 90 years old, and he's on the elders board. He'd been to prison. He was in Soledad. You know, powerful brother, man. I'm gonna put a video. Just did an interview with him in the hospital. Beautiful brother named Jihad Mustafa. So yes, we work with the elders. That's why in our pledge we said we will help protect the women, the youth, and the elderly in our community. So we trying our best to close the gap between the elders and the youth.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Sister Desiree, for the question, and thank you all for watching. What is your next project?
Our next project, actually is already in process, in progress, with Brother Richard Muhammad. I want to give him a salute. Brother Richard Muhammad here in Tampa, Florida, who is also a registered member in the Nation of Islam, who was my first lieutenant, who I worked under, and also a great helper and supporter in the BYC. We got a building now. We have turned that building into a re-entry building for brothers and sisters getting out of prison. We have one brother staying there now who is, displaced, but, he's there to keep the building up. We have, we turned one part of the building into a masjid, wherein the brothers in Masjid Anas, the help. We just want help so that the brothers and sisters who don't want to be lured to sleep by a boring khutbah, they can come and hear some fire at Masjid Anas on Juma Friday and participate in the halakha and also in some talim services so that we can stay in step with our Imam, Sultan Muhammad, and also stay in step with the instructions given to Imam Sultan by our leader, teaching guide, the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is being guided by his father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who has been given power and authority by his savior and our savior, Master Father Muhammad. So, but in this building, the same building, we have closed the gap with our African brothers from the synagogue, wherein they come in and they teach class. They teach their children, and we try to slip our children in there so that they can learn some of the African roots. And also, Brother Richard Muhammad and Brother Jarvis Alameen, they are now planning on gutting out the walls so that we can extend the building and also put some computers there so that they can have an after-school program for the youth to come there to learn more and get more computer literate.
Praise be to Allah. Well, I want to thank you for watching. Yes, sir. And I want to thank you, Brother Jihad. I didn't know anything about your past story. I just saw you working at BYC. But to know that you could overcome being shot multiple times, being in prison, I would have put all of that on the flyer. I didn't know any of that. I was like, man, this brother's doing a good work. But to know that you overcome so much and you have your spirit high and you are still doing the work is an inspiration to me and many others, Brother Jihad.
Yes, sir.
In any way that I can help, please let me know. And any way that we can help, anybody who's watching, let us know, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he said, Sister Desiree says, my husband and I would love to bring my oldest brother to you. He's in Watts, California. He's been banging since age 12. Inshallah, he will be down here soon.
Wow. Where is he coming?
Where, Sister Desiree, where is he coming? Because Brother Jihad lives in Tampa, Florida. We'll work it out. We'll work it out for you. Well, okay. Inshallah, you all can connect on Facebook. But thank you very much, Brother Jihad, for taking time out of your schedule to inspire us. I'm going to make sure I put this on YouTube. And man, I'm inspired. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Well, I want to say this real short. I want to thank you, Brother Joshua, in which I shared it many times. I pray to Almighty God Allah that He keep you and your father and your family. And your brother, man, he have a beautiful spirit. But I pray your whole family, man. When I came to Atlanta, I brought the junior BYC there. And we went to this farm with Sister, I can't call her name, her husband name. They said they had their Sister Aaliyah's, the singer Aaliyah's mansion. They was out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sister I almost called her name.
Sister
Kava, yeah. Yes, invited us out, and I brought some of the junior BYC, and we had an awesome time. But when we came, your father, he called me in the office with Brother Louis Muhammad, and his spirit, I gotta say this, if I never say it again, his spirit reminded me so much of what the disciples of the man who they say they believe in, should be. He reflected the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's spirit. And I have to say this too, you are an extension of that spirit.
Oh, praise be to Allah.
I mean, I'm telling you, brother, and that's why I reached out. And I know if these brothers, these young brothers, get the training that I know you can give, because I may get in trouble for this, but your training, brother, is not to be confined in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It is the training that the brothers, like that sister, son, need. Once they get the training, the devil went savage because he lost the language. In the Nation of Islam, the language is the training, the duty. And once these young brothers get that training that you have, I said, man, what if I could take BYC to one of the drill competition, not as a competitor, but as an exhibition, you know, just a demonstration to show what Brother Joshua can do with a group of young brothers and sisters from the hood.
Yes, sir.
You know, taking the FOI training to the streets. I said, man, that'd be a beautiful thing. So I wanted to give you your roses and original salute you, man, while you're alive. I love you, brother. And I thank you again for this opportunity, Brother Joshua.
Anytime, Brother Jihad. And inshallah, we'll see each other soon.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak.
Wa alaikum salam. Ramadan Kareem.